So this weekend was the 250th birthday of the United States of America. 250 years, a quarter of a millennium of a country still figuring out, pretty badly if we're being honest, how to be a country. Not my country for the record, as you can probably tell, I'm just watching from the sidelines here, but even I know a milestone when I see one. And you'd think, okay, this is the big one. This is the one they roll out the fireworks for. Well, they built a fair on the National Mall. Little tents for every state, like a World's Fair, except every country is just America. And what do the states actually bring? Well, Nebraska bought a cardboard cutout of a goat. Illinois bought toy construction equipment sitting in a sand pit filled with corn, apparently. Nevada bought 2 giant novelty dice, so I suppose take that as a bit of self-deprecation on their part, maybe. But it seems like a lot of states didn't even bother showing up or basically phoned it in, calling the whole thing too partisan. So attendees were just left standing in a sea of empty booths, which, along with the death of the shopping mall, might be the most accurate metaphor for the current state of the US. And of course they scheduled all this pageantry during a heat wave that hit over 100 degrees. That's the high 30s for everywhere else, by the way. So at least a dozen people needed treatment for heat stroke. A birthday party for the greatest country on earth, and the big attraction of the day becomes which pavilion has air conditioning. Not quite how you describe peak American exceptionalism, you wouldn't think, but here we are. Oh, and turkey legs were apparently $23. And ice, literal frozen water by the way, was $7. Your own country's 250th birthday and you get charged tourist trap prices to celebrate not being colonised anymore. But the part that I find really interesting, apart from the cardboard goats and the heat stroke, was that this was supposed to be the big one. 250 years, they've had decades to plan it, and the actual mood, at least from the perspective of an outside observer, just seems really muted. Deflated. Not angry, just kind of flat. Like a party where half the guests didn't turn up and the others spent the entire night arguing in the kitchen. And maybe that's the real headline that nobody wants to write. You can hype for years, book the flyovers, build the 90-foot arch or whatever it is, and none of it actually lands if nobody feels like celebrating. You can't manufacture unity with a fireworks display, it seems. But you know what a sizable portion of people are talking about? Not just in America, but the entire developed world? A wedding. Another celebrity wedding. Not the royal variety this time around, but honestly might as well be. Taylor Swift married whatever his name is, the football guy. Travis or Trevor, or they're pretty much the same name, one of those. I didn't seek out this knowledge, it just found me as I inevitably knew it would. And congratulations to them. I hope they're very happy together. I hope the prenup is airtight for everyone's sake. And even though the actual event itself seemed to take place behind closed doors, at least from what I can gather, there was absolutely no getting away from it in the media or on the internet or anywhere. The Empire State Building lit up for the occasion. Half of New York locked down like some kind of Dog Day afternoon hostage situation. All for the sake of a woman in a dress saying, I do. I mean, the lunacy of the whole thing is beyond any sort of parody. Look, this isn't an original observation by any stretch. People have been pointing out the ridiculousness of these weddings for decades now. William and Kate, Charles and Diana, the Beckhams, Kim Kardashian. Remember that one? So it's not unique or contrarian by now to point out that celebrity spectacle trumps civic anything 10 times out of 10. The nation's founding on one channel and Hollywood A-listers sneaking into Madison Square Garden on the other. Yeah. No contest. Of course, gaudy voyeurism wins. And this transcends the US. The entire Western world has built a monoculture on the premise that a pop star crying about her ex on a piano is somehow more compelling than the things which actually directly affect people's lives. That's not new. That's the whole business model. But I guess what really interests me about this thing is just the framing of the whole thing. It seems like almost every outlet out here is acting like this is some sort of profound cultural moment. You know, the storybook romance, America's sweethearts, blah blah blah. When really it's just a rich, extremely photogenic couple getting married behind a wall of NDAs and cops while hordes of overzealous fans scrounge around and clamber over each other outside for a glimpse. That's the real headline here. 2 of the most followed human beings on the planet had a wedding that the public could not watch, and somehow that drew even more attention to the thing, like Area 51 or that shit nightclub in London. We are so touchstar for celebrity access that we're willing to turn a wedding into a papal conclave. Humble beginnings. I think that's the actual underlying myth that's still being sold here. You know the one. Pull yourself up, anyone can make it. Prom king marries prom queen, the whole white picket fence fantasy, except the prom king and queen in this version have a combined net worth that could bail out a small country, and the wedding required a security perimeter you'd normally reserve for a G7 summit. That's not girl next door marries the football captain. them, that's the aristocracy cosplaying as a high school yearbook photo. And let's not skip past the whole self-made mythology of Taylor Swift thing either, because that's one part that surprisingly I still see getting toted around out there. She didn't grow up scraping by. Her father was an extremely wealthy financial executive. Her family had real money and real industry connections before she ever even picked up a guitar. And that kind of a head start is exactly what turns kid with a dream into I just signed a record deal at 14. None of which makes her untalented, by the way, before any Swifties jump down my throat. But you have to agree, it's easier to be the underdog when your origin story comes with a support system that any other working class kid with the same or even greater talent would never get within a million miles of. And the guest list certainly didn't help the case. Half of Hollywood's contact list showing up to watch two billionaire adjacent people become slightly more billionaire adjacent. Meanwhile, the plebs watch from behind a police cordon on their phones, hoping somebody's Instagram story pops up before the moment's gone. Which leads into the whole antidote to doom scrolling angle I've seen. Some actually usually respectable commentators unironically arguing that a couple with a combined social media following larger than several countries is somehow a wholesome escape from political and social division. That's not an escape from the algorithm, that is the algorithm. You didn't leave the machine, you just found the cutest, most comfortable gear inside it. And it's easier to feel good about billionaire love stories when you're not the one who just found out that eggs are $11 and still rising. And maybe that's the real joke buried in all this. The celebrity wedding industrial complex outperforming the nation's birthday isn't an accident, it's preference. Given the choice between complicated, ugly and real, and simple, beautiful and fictional, most people take the latter. Maybe this is just what national identity looks like now, not just in America, but the entire Western world. We used to build countries around wars, revolutions, shared struggles, but now those borders have collapsed, and we build them around parasocial relationships with people who don't even know we exist. I guarantee you, unsurprisingly, more people can recite the complete lyrics of Taylor Swift or tell you Travis, whatever his name is, stats, than tell you a single line of their own country's founding documents or their rights as a citizen. And that's not a jab at anyone individually, that's just where we've landed, collectively, as a monoculture. We've outsourced the feeling of shared occasion to whoever's famous enough to trend globally for a week, because weddings give us the cleanest, simplest narratives with a beginning, middle, and happy ending. A 250-year-old experiment in self-governance, divided and sweltering through a heatwave, doesn't. So, happy birthday, America. Your present is a cardboard cutout of a goat, a football player, and a woman who owns more real estate than several nations. Try to have fun.